I think especially as a leader, they think if their team is having conflict, if two people on their team can't get along, they think it's a failure instead of inevitable, right? It's
Mm.
an inevitable part of interacting with other humans.
Yeah,
And the people who I have the most intense fights with,
yeah,
the people I love, like the people I care a lot about, because I
yeah,
trust them and I'm willing to say exactly what I feel. I'm willing to ask for what I need. So I don't think of conflict as a failure in a relationship, but actually, usually it's a sign of trust. Now, healthy conflict is much more a sign of trust than unhealthy conflict. But
mm,
I think there's this big, especially with the way that conflict is portrayed in politics and media, like reality TV, right? We see it
yeah,
as damaging to relationships, but the research shows quite the opposite, especially if you take that time for reflection that we talked about.
yeah,
It can actually build trust in relationships. It can, look at the work of Dr. Amy Winsman around psychological safety, like having a disagreement,
yeah,
giving feedback, really being clear about where you've made mistakes, where the team has made mistakes, builds that psychological safety, doesn't necessarily damage it.
but just going back to the team environment, then this is where I think when conflict is not handled well in a team, it's nearly that's a source of drama, which is a source of gossip, right? And then gossip goes around
Mm-hmm.
going, wait, and I tell you. And it's more about then information as power goes, I've got a story to share with you. And then there's a bit of social value to that. No, I did an episode on this with dealing with gossip in the workplace with Deborah Grayson Regal. And
Yeah.
this is where I think what happens is the drama will filter out if it's done well. And then we've psychological safety, and then with confidentiality is coming in. So these are the norms. They're really what you're saying here. It's about how do we create those norms that it's a habit. This is something we make time for
Yes.
and we prioritize. And I think when I go into some teams, then if we don't have a review, we go, well, we left it for the last 5 minutes of the conversation. And then
Mm-hmm.
other stuff took place, and then it got pushed out, and they got pushed out, and then it's no longer a habit. So it has to
Yep.
be something that we prioritize at the start.